Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Casually Curious. This is going to be another in the Distillations series. I am Brian, one of your co-hosts, and I want to start out by thanking everyone who has subscribed, all the new people that I can actually say hello and know that I'm saying hello to someone, which is nice change. Good direction. Let's keep going in that direction. So thank you for subscribing, and thank you to everyone who left such helpful and insightful and constructive responses, comments, criticism, the rest. I'm going to give a more direct response to all of that in another video, because I realized that one of the reasons it's taken so long to put this one out was that I wanted to respond, and of course I wasn't sure how, and then multiple different ways to go about it, and it ended up leading to not putting anything out there. So I'm just going to barge ahead with the Distillation series and with some more excerpts from reading I've been doing. And so I'll just, without further ado, I'll just jump in, because this is on theme for things I'm finding helpful. Thinkers that, philosophy to me has been more in the analytic strain, so like philosophy of mind, logic, formal logic, first order predicate, blah, 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 and less so of the transcendentalists and existentialists and continental and that sort of dynamic. And today's reading is Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of his essays. I got this cool looking copy. It's got a nice spine. You can see there's a dude with a helmet. Not quite sure if that's supposed to mean anything, but it's a very nice looking copy. Here, I'll show you the front page. Essays, and then the man himself, Ralph. So the essay that I have been enjoying thoroughly is Self-Reliance, which is definitely on theme as well, as I'm sure you could have guessed. So Self-Reliance, there's a lot of good stuff in here. So I've got some pictures of the actual text that I highlighted that is going to be up on the screen, and so I'll do another one of these screen tests. All right. So Emerson, Self-Reliance. Quote, "To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius. Speak your latent conviction, and it shall be the universal sense. For always the inmost becomes the outmost, and our first thought is rendered back to us by the trumpets of the last judgment. Familiar as the voice of the mind is to each, the highest merit we ascribe to Moses, Plato, and Milton is that they set at naught books and traditions, and spoke not what men, but what they thought." That's so cool. That is. So this hit me especially because I think to a larger degree than we admit to ourselves, the things we say, the ideas we promulgate are influenced by social convention, are said with the anticipation that with the implicit anticipation or the implicit understanding that what we're saying is going to be interpreted by the sort of axioms of social discourse, the presuppositions, and to have a sense that what you think is true, and if it differs from what you would expect others to be thinking, but to say it trusting that it actually is true, that everyone else sort of says what should be said, but not necessarily what they're feeling to be true in their hearts, in their private heart. To be the person that accesses their own raw intuition as to what it is that's going on, or as to an idea that they believe to be true, and to risk it not being shared by others in their private heart, but to say it regardless and see what happens. That is what Moses, Plato, Milton, and every idiosyncratic thinker who left a new mark on the pattern of collective thought throughout history in order to break away and in order to course correct or chart a new course, you have to take that risk. And if it resonates, it resonates. If it is the case that what it is being thought in their private heart was shared by everyone else, then their ideas are instantiated into history. But the act of the actual action of saying what you think to be true regardless, anticipating that the people you're speaking to don't agree with you, that's quite the act. That takes some serious balls. That takes some serious balls. And that just hit me as, damn, I do not speak what I think to be genuinely true all that much. Or I don't access that what is actually in my own private heart often enough. I don't express that often enough. And that could be it could be beneficial to people who share what is there in your private heart, but aren't saying it because of the same reason that I'm not saying it, the same reason that everyone isn't saying it. I thought that was interesting. All right, next. Quote, "A man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Yet he dismisses without notice his thought, because it is his. In every work of genius, we recognize our own rejected thoughts. they come back to us with a certain alienated majesty. That gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within. I like that analogy. It illustrates the nature, the sort of when things connect, when the dots connect for you. I think it more often happens when you are doing something in an environment. So for example, like a Google search. So you're researching some topic, and you're punching things into Google, browsing through websites, and you sort of pick up, there's almost like a sixth sense of dots connecting and a certain path through the environment of information that is almost like a gleam of light that you're picking up on. But as opposed to this being in the environment and outside of your mind, I think a similar thing happens within our own minds, within our patterns of thought. There's a certain gleam of that sixth sense that lights up, and it's our intuition, I guess, might be one way of describing it. Maybe not so much intuition in the more when it's used in academic philosophy, but almost like an active intuition, an intuition over time, where that those ideas that you have or those thoughts connect. It's almost like an internal Google research project is say your entire thought process, and then there's paths that light up, and when they light up, we dismiss without notice our thought because it is ours. It's almost like, well, that must be bullshit, because who am I to trust my own intuitive gleams of light? Why should that path that is making itself known to me be anything other than my own delusion, my own almost Cartesian demon who is deceiving my, sort of the Matrix. It could be just picking up a pattern where there is no pattern. But the only reason we dismiss it is because it is ours. So maybe in another situation, if someone else were explaining their own sixth sense gleam of light, we would be less likely to dismiss it and listen to what we might learn from it. They come back to us with a certain alienated majesty. I hope that's the case, that they come back. That would be helpful. Alienated majesty. Sounds like an interesting confrontation with your own self. Okay. Next. Quote, "There is a time in every man's education when he arrives at the conviction that envy is ignorance, that imitation is suicide, that he must take himself for better, for worse, as his portion, that though the wide universe is full of good, no kernel of nourishing corn can come to him but through his toil bestowed on that plot of ground which is given to him to till. The power which resides in him is new in nature, and none but he knows that is which he can do. Nor does he know until he has tried. Not for nothing, one face, one character, one fact makes much impression on him, and another none. It is not without pre-established harmony, this sculpture in the memory. The eye was placed where one ray should fall, that it might testify of that particular ray. Bravely let him speak the utmost syllable of his confession. We but half express ourselves, and are ashamed of that divine idea which each of us represents. It may be safely trusted as proportionate and of good issues, so it be faithfully imparted. But God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. It needs a divine man to exhibit anything divine. So this is another fucking intense one. All right, so I'll start with the real heavy hitter. God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. Jesus Christ, does that hit you in the gut? So I think you don't have to, subscribe to, Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior to still get the import of this point, which is that whatever our potential is, whatever is possible for each of us to achieve in life is not achieved by shying away from the truths that reside in your private heart. It requires courage to speak those truths that you are unsure if anyone else shares within their private hearts, in order to illuminate some new truth, in order to follow that gleam of light. That gleam of light is, in a way, it's like that's the thing that's leading you to the divine path, the future, the best possible you, if you were doing all that you could be doing. It requires someone courageous to manifest God's work. God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. That certainly changes the relationship between work, between a calling and what we might think of as achieving happiness. It's more duty filled. It takes on a different character, and one that makes really kind of, it's like, oh shit, every all the time that isn't devoted to courageously manifesting God's work or following that gleam of light, that divine gleam of light, is time acting cowardly, and guilty as charged. So that one hit me. Needs a divine man to exhibit anything divine. Goddamn, that's a tall order. And it's sort of one of those truths that you don't want to face, because it's a high bar. So just the beginning of this: envy is ignorance, Imitation is suicide. Yeah. He knows what that which he can do, nor does he know until he has tried. You're not going to know what it is that gleaming path is leading you towards until you step onto that path and move forward down that path. It is not without pre-established harmony, this sculpture in the memory. Yeah, pre-established harmony. It's almost like maybe it's not quite a sixth sense that we have, or it's more of, to get to some philosophy, that there's a Platonic form that does exist, really does exist in the realm of forms, the metaphysical realm of forms, and that it's almost like Plato's idea that we are sort of remembering that knowledge is it. I think it's knowledge. The claim is that it's through our accessing these pre-established harmonic Platonic forms that we gain an understanding of reality, because reality just is this universe of harmonic forms, and that in a way we're remembering those harmonies and accessing those harmonies, which is cool. Okay, next. I should probably cut some of this stuff out. Okay.